because next time we start, let's make sure so we take with the telephone. Yeah, man. Happy New Year. It's another Sunday, the first Sunday of the month. Last week this time I was packing the vehicle and heading to the venue so we can kick up rumpus for the new year. So it's a new year, first episode, and this episode you'll be regaled with the croonings of none other than the cool
ruler himself,
Gregory Isaacs. Yes, boss.
Gregory Isaacs, the cool ruler. A few man in the music business, Jamaican music business, that has had the impact that Gregory has had on Jamaican music, and so much so that when Gregory went to the UK, them literally develop a genre of their own singing style. That is the kind of indication of the measure of the man's importance. And so today, we are going to kick the year off on bright, positive note. And as Big G just pointed out, let me just add my little thing. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And thank you very much for supporting us over the years as we open a new chapter. What you call it? The fifth?
Yeah.
5 years
We're
old?
heading into our fifth year.
And so, Happy New Year. And so today we're going to treat you to the musical stylings of the man himself, Gregory the Cool Ruler Isaacs. Whole heap of music, we're gonna regale you.
Virgin, we can't play the amount of Gregory that music.
And so we're gonna treat our guests to the catalogue per se, while we will fill in some of his, the details of his life and his impact. But to let's get the ball off on the right foot, with a little piece, a little tips from Gregory's catalogue.
Well, the tips that I am going to play is a song that came out in 1978. We're going to go back to the early stylings now. This is one of my favorite that Gregory, but is not my favorite. One of my favorites. Yeah, man. My number one.
I can see why you say you're a number one. But nice tune. As you said, this is Gregory Isaacs in the 1970s. But we're going to step forward.
Peel it back 10 years.
Into the earlier period, I think. No, Gregory Isaacs, a Kingstonian by birth, born in Fletcher's Land. Fletcher's Land area of Kingston.
Fletcher.
Right? The Fletcher's Land area of Kingston, Jamaica on July 15, 1951. And, it's interesting that here is a man who came up through, making his bones in the music business in the early years, was a regular on the talent contest of the period. In fact, that 1950s, early 1960s era, as far as Jamaica is concerned, and Jamaica musically, was the talent contest, and one of the most famous talent contests was Virgins, they got
right.
And so those type of talent contests basically pitted young Jamaican youngsters against each other, which is why a lot of in those communities, Fletcher's Land, Trenchtown, Jonestown, you Rockford, everybody formed them like a group, and these are youngsters, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, just because they want to try them hand at becoming a singer,
a bona fide.
Yeah, because them days people were much about recording. The recording industry thing would come in a little bit later, but everybody wanted to take. But plus the contests were, by those standards, lucrative. I mean, you win the contest, I think you get much about £10. The big contest is £10, but £10 could almost buy a house in them days. I mean, that's an exaggeration, really. But
it depends on where you are.
Yeah, but you could buy yourself a motorcycle. You could buy a bicycle, certainly.
You could buy yourself a big plate of food.
Well, listen, £6 could have buy yourself a big plate of food because sometimes that money have to share up between.
So all of you and your brethren could have eat good food and drink some good beer.
And you can buy 2 pants length out of it and all of that. So the contest was an integral part of the artistic development. And of course, right for that, on the heels of all of that, developed the recording industry because sound systems wanted to be different, they started to record these people. And so this is where Gregory Isaacs came through. He made his debut 1968. 1968, he made his debut recording as Winston Sinclair. He would have been 17 years old. And he came out with a single called Another Heartache, which was recorded for Byron Lee and the Dragonaires fame. And of course, the single never did all that great. Well, that is an overstatement. The single never do good at all. And so he teamed up with Errol Dunkley. And those are you.
Would have been a child too at the time.
Yes, and you know, these guys were forward looking, if you will, because they formed a little they basically set up a business, the African Museum record label, and opened a little record shop.
So let's put things into perspective, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
At 17 years old, 17 still a child.
Right.
Because 18 is considered an adult. At 17 years old, you
actually in a
presence of mind.
Hold on.
Business sense.
I just want to interject here because in 1968, 69, 17-year picnic, because they never consider you to be an adult until you're 21 when you could have vote. So they were still children. But to your point.
Yeah. So at that tender age, you had that presence and business mind, entrepreneurship, to create a business with your brethren, who is also a child. Because Errol Dunkley at that time was still a spring.
There you go.
And they created their own record label and record shop.
Absolutely. And you know, we always hear these criticisms that these youngsters, these recording artists coming out of that era, that them dunce and all of that. And
that's not the activity of a dunce person.
But while there may be argument that, you know, a lot of these guys never had much schooling. To your point,
schooling is not an indication of intelligence.
Well, again, you see, we're making some sense here. But these guys saw it the same. You know, when we look at a Mali, it was pretty much the same thing. These youngsters were at this very early age were looking at carving out a space in the thing for themselves, and so the African Museum label was born out of this time, and
4 years later they had a success with a nice little Lovers Rock, which is credited to be the premier song that started that whole genre.
Lovers Rock genre.
My Only Lover. But they did another song before that with a little group that you were starting in the Concords with Don't Let Me Suffer. So I'm going to play those 3 songs.
Yeah, I play Another Heartache.
Yeah, man, I'm going to play Another Heartache, and I'm going to play Don't Let Me Suffer, and then I'm going to play their first hit from the African Museum, My Only Lover. So let's get into the groove, and Another Heartache. Yeah, that's real Lovers Rock right there, Bridget. It just
that's what you said. The first.
This song is so slow; it's almost like it won't stop. My Only Lover, but it is a slow song, 67 BPM.
But it did reasonably well at the time because it sort of opened the floodgates for him.
The name of the album that came out on was All I Have Is Love.
Yeah, it did it with Rupi Edwards, they basically opened the recording industry up to the voice that was Gregory Isaacs, and I think that's where his career.
Yeah, 1972, Virgin. I can tell you, Jamaica was 10 years into independence. and we were just getting into the rudiments of the expression of reggae music. And this song definitely is one of those songs. But not only that, it spawned the lovers rock industry.
And then in addition to that too, according to the scribes, the success of that particular record brought Gregory Isaacs to the attention of a whole heap of a number of other producers. And so they, according to them, between 1973 and 1976, Gregory Isaacs' output was so prolific that, in fact, he put out more material during those 3-4 years than what most of the artists who, a lot of them we talk about from time to time, would have done in their entire lifetime. In fact, I probably have about 18 Gregory Isaacs albums.
So let's look at it, Richie. 1973, All I Have Is Love.
Right.
Lonely Soldier. 1974, Love Is Overdue. And I'm talking the hits. Right? 1976, Mr. Cop. 1976, Black I Kill Black. 1977, Loving Papa. 1978, Border. 1978, My Number One. Mr. Brown. Tune In. Soon Forward. Roughneck. Well, that's 1988. But that's just in the 70s. And a lot of them weren't just throwaway songs. I'm talking about a lot of them like
most of the names you called there too were
they're big hits.
They're big hits, and some were the title of some of the albums that he did.
But you had songs in there like Black I Kill Black. He did a thing from Dobby Dobson's Loving Papa. And then there was Wailing Rudies and Universal Tribulation, Black Liberation Struggle, Slave Market. So he didn't just do lovers crossover songs. He did songs that were protesting and saying that he was aware of what was happening on the planet.
I think it is a reflection of his grounding. And again, people like Gregory Isaacs makes real the adage that we have adopted since we have started the show, that if you really want to know what's going on in Jamaica, you listen to the music. The songs basically told the events. It was basically singing about the events, the protest songs, though they weren't as plentiful as some of the other artists would have done. He kind of stayed away from the political leaning, if you will.
He was, as I'm saying, the cool ruler, the man who just lulled you into romance. And as when you were writing the script for this, talked about he was just as prolific in the dancehall as his songs would make that emotion in the bedroom. And one of those songs is this song, which came out in 1973, is a song called All I Have Is Love. And then I'm going to play my favorite Gregory Isaacs right after that, which is Love Is Overdue. Thank God for Coppery Jukebox in Coleyville, Manchester. First time I heard this song, 1974. No, man, 9-year-old? Oh, man, diaper stuck for a long time. Boy band.
Go primary school, I had TV the jukebox, go play, go throw your lunch money and the thing.
No, man, I tell them, I used to follow my grandmother and the man them used to pay me 5 cents for dance. But he used the 5 cents to punch to tune. Yeah, man. I think at the time too, my other favorite song on the jukebox was Little Nut Tree by the Melodians. Yes, man.
This is the early part of the 1970s, and one of the features of this period too was the developing proliferation of recording studios.
And not just that, Richie, really quick. I'm a love interject and cut you off by your thought process. But the writing, the songwriting, Love Is Overdue.
But
when you listen to the lyrical construction, who's gonna tell me lies and let me believe they're the truth?
Again, this is again Jamaicans that take ownership for the music. I mean, we're coming out of a period, 1973, we are 11 years of independence.
We're cutting down on cover versions.
Right, the music is now, it's more, apart from just, not just cutting down cover, but writing your own material is the essence of taking ownership of the music. And this is why reggae is without a doubt the real Jamaican owned and developed music. Because now the musical arrangements, they're all local.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, you still have some R&B influence in terms of the guitar stylings and so on.
Yeah.
But and song structure. But the lyrical content is local. Here is a man sing about a girl or
He's
the whole
broken
business of relationship. A girl left him and gone. You know?
And that was pretty much the songs in the 70s too, because if you listen to the stylistics and Shine-Lights, most of those songs were broken hearted songs.
But this was Jamaican.
Yeah.
He was a Jamaican artist I localize it in a reggae style.
And you're talking about this, the age of songwriters, so to speak. The John Holt's, the Bob Andys. All these guys were writing their own lyrics. You know?
And writing your lyrics is taking ownership of the music. And I guess, you know, it's one of the reasons why I love the idea of doing the show, because Gregory Isaacs was a representation of Jamaican artists taking, you know, finally taking ownership and demonstrating that, you know, not only can we make big hits locally, but you can take these. It's not just, you know, redoing a song that comes from overseas.
Version, right, like Everything I Own.
Yeah, but you can write something that is native to where you come from.
And your own experience.
And you can then take that song and carry it outside of Jamaica, and it's still
as you have said today, sell off.
It's sell off.
Slap away.
But having said that though, he was doing some other songs, and we're almost up on a break. You know, he did some cover versions to Lonely Soldier was
that's what Williams, what's his name?
Yeah, but I can't remember the first name, but Williams. I'm a Lonely Soldier, and you have you know, he did over Dobby Dobson's classic too.
Yeah.
Loving
We'll come back from the break with that.
And of course the protest song Black I Kill Black and so. But let's go to a break. We'll come back and we'll take it from there.
All right. So you heard in order of appearance, "Lonely Soldier," cover version from a Mike Williams original. Then you heard "Loving Papa," which is a cover of Dobby Dobson's, done also by Roddy Thomas. Did a very good rendition of that one. "Black I Kill Black," Black Against Black, 1976, and of course, Mr. Cop, 1976, was also rampant. Apart from it being an election year, police prosecution of a dreadlock Rastaman was in full swing.
You know, it's interesting you talk about the police persecution, because by this time, Gregory had developed a reputation of running afoul of the law and getting into trouble as he quit. I think he went to jail, prison, at least 20 odd times, 27 times according to the scribes. You don't know when, well, I guess he found a whole heap of time to write songs and so on. But the fact is,
this man don't sleep, Richie. Because if you can't find enough time to record music, write songs,
and still go to prison at the same time.
Him not sleep.
But you know, just to step back a little bit, when they did that African Museum label, I guess as two youngsters, them, you know, they would have had their problems. They're coming up against the establishment, which at that time would have been Coxsone, to a lesser extent, Duke Reid, who was kind of on the way, and I think by then Miss Pottinger would have acquired the Treasure Island catalogue.
1976, Channel 1 is
Channel 1 is, yeah, and then you also have Harry J just opened. You also have the Kong Brothers. Yeah. They were still in operation. Scratch Perry was out there.
90 the Observer.
Your Briefcase Man, Bonnie Lee. 90 the Observer. So
of course, to a lesser extent, you had Byron Lee. And then you
not to a lesser extent, Byron Lee was holding his own big time too.
Allow me for this situation. And then you had Aquarius Records.
Yeah, Aquarius had just come into into the picture. But this was the landscape, and what Gregory did is, I guess it would have given him some issues to keep the African Museum label going. He started to do a lot of work for the other producers as well, which was the objective was to develop some money to keep his own thing going with Dunkley. That never lasted after. I think he basically kept the label, but eventually the operation itself folded. But in spite of all of those challenges, he was turning out a brute load of material. He did a lot of work with what's his name, Riley.
Yeah.
Where
That would be Techniques.
yes, Winston Riley. He also did work with Channel One. He was part of that crew who was helping to get the Channel One operation.
That is Ernest and
Right. Ernest Who, right? And he was doing work with Lee Scratchberry as well.
And at the time, if he was working with Channel One, he would have been hanging out with the likes of Sly Dunbar, the Revolutionaries, Sly and Robbie, and those guys.
He would have. Alvin Ranglin was one, but I think he did most of his work with Alvin Ranglin at the time too. Released a couple of albums with him. The Gregory Isaacs Best of Volume 1 and 2, and the all of this too. Just at the time when we were trying to push music into North America, the UK market had opened up already, and he had kind of gotten himself in there and established himself too with his cool croonings, which established him as a lovers rock aficionado. And so what we call rocksteady in Jamaica, the British referred to it as lovers rock, and the man who was largely responsible for that.
When you say rocksteady, you mean the early, not
early
rocksteady.
Yeah. Early.
But I understand what you mean, the cool and deadly time,
Yes.
the rent-a-time version of reggae.
Yeah. Which is why we used to borrow the R&B songs and do them over Jamaica style. But this was him. And he found a niche, I think, but of course, his productivity interrupted by his serving time at Her Majesty's pleasure, or the Governor General's pleasure.
The Governor General's pleasure.
Yeah.
But in between serving time, and he had a couple of other songs that came out at that time. My Time, Slave Master, 1-1 Coco, Extra Classic. But the songs that ruled the airwaves, not just radio, but parties, dance hall, jukeboxes in the bars, were songs like Mr. Brown. I already played my number one. Tune In,
Soon Forward,
Border, Soon Forward. So I'm going to regale you with those songs right now. Yo. Tumbling Tears. That was what was just playing. And before that you heard Soon Forward, Tune In, Border. Oh, what a feeling. And that was just the 70s.
That was like a taste, if you will.
Of the 70s. Yeah, I mean, I didn't do any of the...
Tumbling Tears was not that was a remake of an Altanelli song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tumbling thing. But granted a lick over, as we call it, he basically took ownership of the song. You could...
And he take ownership of the Jamaican music scape.
Absolutely. But more so too, you get a good feel of, because this song was done at clearly at Channel One Studios, and you kind of get a really nice feel of this rolling drum and bass atmosphere that was coming out of things. Sly Dunbar by now had immersed himself in a Channel One, and so the flavor of the music nicer, the tempo
pick up,
the chords are rolling and pretty.
Talk about picking up tempo with Gregory Isaacs. It's almost an oxymoron in a rich.
True, because he's noted for sort of down in their belly kind of crooning that lovers rock approach. That's what make him lovers rock music so potent. But here he is, stepping out, if you will, and in tune with the productivity that is coming from Channel One as a brand new, a new studio as
New
far as the
song.
music was concerned. The experiment that Sly and Robbie had now been,
And
working with.
Ranchi too, and
Right,
and
right.
Willie Chin and all of those guys that was there at the time.
You get a great sense now of all of this coming together. All of those guys who had this new set of players in the music have take center stage, and you're getting that feel.
And then on the other side too, you were hearing songs from the now Chalices and Third World taking on the other side of the coin. So it was a big time in Jamaican music.
Yeah, revolutionaries really lifted that sound, and you really can't
And then with
pay
Joe Gibbs,
homage without giving
man,
credit to them as well.
The Disco 45 was now in play. DJ songs with the Prince Mohammeds, Dennis Browns, all these guys, the early time of Black Uhuru, and then the big bands at the time too was the Cultures and the Burning Spear, and of course Bob Marley and the Wailers back then.
Yeah.
By that time it was Bob Marley and the
But
Wailers.
I would almost want to say to that, it's hard to divide the music, and it's almost two different classes of music. No, because the big band, that band sound of the big groups, as you just mentioned them, and then you have the studio work that is coming with these solo artists and the whole engineering. In fact, Channel One sort of changed the whole music landscape. Added some dimension. Didn't mean that the Coxsons and so on went out of business. It's just that
The focus was different.
focus because the approach to the music was a little bit, and then to party. A lot of
That's
was
right.
party music
Was not being driven.
right, and so well Sly and Robbie, and Sly talk about it. He say he was coming from the club scene where as a drummer, as a musician, he was playing dance music. You had to learn a lot of these just released American tunes and
Because
so
you're playing on the cabaret circuit.
and you compete with the developing sounds,
disco
the
45.
disco, right,
Well, yeah, because before that you had sound systems. Now you had the disco,
right,
which played at
play
house
everything.
parties and then play everything.
right.
Yeah.
And so he was not afraid to kind of bring that into his recording, so that when you drop a Channel One, it was hard for you drop a Channel One record for the turntable. You have to follow it with something with the same kind of tempo. That also gave birth to some new sound systems that was coming through. People like a Ray Symbolic and all of them, where they were using the digitized approach to the sound. It wasn't the tuba thing anymore. Now that never died, but it sort of changed the whole composition and how people listen to music. Plus, a lot of this music was now being able to be played on the radio because it wasn't the risky thing we was getting from one side, and it wasn't, I guess, some of the potent social commentary reggae that not played. But a Gregory Isaacs could have think. This was also the era of, it was just around the time to where the DJ on the radio. Right?
You're talking about a Winston Williams,
Winston,
a Barry G.
Yeah. I think Barry G would have come a little couple of,
I'm talking in mid-70s,
late 1970s, right?
Yeah, this was 1978. There was another big song, Richie, around about 1975, 76, called Babylon Too Rough. And I think Dennis Brown has a cut of that song. And, I want to take that, use that.
Hi there. If you enjoyed that clip, go on over to our website at yardmedia.com, where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, Don't forget to tell your friends.